This is News Review. Thank you for being there. Coming up on the show today, nomination starts in the Gambia. Nomination for president, that is. It started over the weekend, starting with independents. We also have the heavyweight leaders. Today, UDP leader Usainu Dabo was at the IEC. We have reports for you on this. My guest today will be the independent aspirant presidential candidate Abubacarr Jeng. Over the weekend, he decided to back President Adama Barrow. He has joined the National People's Party's candidate to support him for this election. This and more, but first we will see what the newspapers are reporting on today. I'll begin with the Standard newspaper. Just quickly. Today they are reporting that Gano opts out of alliance. That is the alliance between Gano, former President Yahya Jammeh supporters, and the opposition GDC. The story is saying on Friday, the Jammeh-backed APRC faction led by Yaya Tamba signed the alliance deal with the GDC and announced that it will now choose the party's leader Mama Kandeh and not Gano's Sheikh Tijan Hydra as flag bearer for the 4th December presidential election. Hydra was conspicuously absent at the signing ceremony. Since then, Mr. Hydra has not made any public comment on the matter. However, Gano's second vice president, Mohamed Mendy, yesterday said it is improper for one party to decide on a flag bearer for 3 parties. It would appear that Gano's place in that alliance is now all over. Another story there is saying Bibi Dabo endorses UDP's Dabo, saying the Gambia for All has agreed to throw its weight behind UDP and its leader Usainu Dabo. Senior officials of the two parties met at the UDP's Manjai Bureau on Saturday evening to sign the Memorandum of Understanding. The GFA is led by former Vice President Bakari Bunja Dabo. The party was in alliance talks with the GMC, CA, NUP, and APP before it pulled out. The point is saying that Gambia protests against Jammeh's inflammatory remarks following former Gambian despot Yahya Jammeh's recent inflammatory remarks directed at the Barrow government and other political actors. The point has been reliably informed that the Gambia government has reacted strongly. It went on to say in a terse and strongly worded statement seen by our source, the Gambia government is reported to have petitioned Yahya Jammeh's current host, President Theodore Obiang, the ECOWAS Commission, the United Nations African Representative, and the African Union to immediately caution the disgraced tyrant lest his inflammatory statements or messages bring confusion and violence as the Gambia enters a very contentious presidential election. That will be all for the news viewers. We'll take a short break and we'll be right back. Stay tuned. Thank you very much. So nomination for the 2021 December presidential election began over the weekend. On Saturday, candidates started heading to the IEC to submit their nomination credentials to officials of the Independent Electoral Commission. They are headed by Aliu Momar Njai. Today, Monday, featured UDP leader Usainu Dabo. You also had GMC's My Fati. We'll begin with that story there by Christian Conte.
It's a lot of noise, massive, thousands and thousands of Gambians, thousands of supporters of the UDP leader Dabo.
The nomination process for presidential candidates in the December 2021 election continued into its 3rd day today, 1st November 2021. In the early hours of today, former Vice President and opposition strongman Usainu Dabo of the United Democratic Party, UDP, Gambia's biggest opposition party, officially presented his nomination to the country's Independent Electoral Commission. Lawyer Dabo drove into the election house with thousands of his supporters cladded in their party's traditional yellow. Lawyer Dabo attempted to speak to the press immediately after his nomination, but the atmosphere was quite chaotic.
Speak down, please. Please speak down. Please.
From December 4th, 2021.
Well, why does anybody think that I'm not the right candidate?
Sorry.
Why does anybody...
Take it easy, man.
Excuse me. Why does anybody think that I am not the right candidate?
Actually not thinking you are not the right candidate, but I want to believe it is something you have to do like the country. What are those plans you have? What are the 5 plans you have on the country? This election is
I know.
Take it easy, man.
Usainu Dabo was born in 1948 in central Gambia, where he attended primary school before proceeding to St. Augustine High School and Gambia High School in Banjul, where he successfully completed his GCE O-level and A-level certificates, respectively. Dabo later graduated from the University of Lagos with an honors degree in law and was called to the Federal Bar of Nigeria and subsequently to the Gambian Bar in 1973. He also holds a master's degree in law. Later in the afternoon, the leader of the Gambian Moral Congress, GMC, Honorable Mai Ahmed Fati, successfully presented his nomination papers to the country's Electoral Commission. Shortly before his arrival, Dr. Brian Jai, leader of the All People's Party, presented a letter to the IEC suggesting his party's withdrawal from the presidential race. He could later be seen accompanying Honorable Fati, who came to the nomination with his mother. Speaking to pressmen after the nomination exercise, Honorable Mai Fati noted that he is determined to lift the people of Gambia out of poverty.
This election is not about crowd. This election is not about wealth. It is not about fame. It is about you, the ordinary Gambians. It is about your health. It is about your education. It is about your security. It is
aspirant Ibrahima Tubura Mane was the first to show up
about our stomach. This election is about energy security. This election is a contest of ideas and not a contest of crowd, as important as that may be. Crowd is not going to govern this country. It is intellect, it is policy, it is raw gut to put an end to the cascading crime rate in this country, to ensure our law enforcement agencies have what it takes to protect our people, so that Gambia's development trajectory will be expedited.
When asked about the recent signed MOU with 4 other political parties, including the CA, GFA, APP, and UNP, he noted that he is focusing on his nomination as the GMC presidential candidate in the 2021 election. He further confirmed that indeed 5 parties signed an MOU, but the time was too tight for them to select a flag bearer.
It took 9 grueling weeks, 9 weeks to reach a consensus. We have some form of memorandum of understanding, but the time is too tight for us to proceed with selecting a flag bearer, pursuant to the implementation of the MOU. So therefore, the talks will continue, and the talks will go on, and our doors remain open with regards to that. That is my answer as regards to that.
Can you clarify? You name one, ended up with one. Can you clarify that? Because
what I understand is that today I am nominated as the candidate for the Gambia Moral Congress for the election of President of the Gambia 2021.
does that mean,
Nomination of candidates for today there featuring UDP leader Usainu Dabo, but also GMC chief Mai Ahmed Fati. So Sunday, that was yesterday, featured the likes of Ibrahima Tabora Mane, but also Banki, the Rasta presidential candidate. Amara Franca reports.
Of the nomination process at the Independent Electoral Commission headquarters. After completing his nomination process, Mr. Mane faced the media and promised Gambians that he would develop the Gambia more than Singapore, Rwanda, and Botswana if elected as president.
It's not like reinventing the wheel. How did Singapore become Singapore? How did South Korea become South Korea? They had independence with us almost the same time, in the 60s. I give you South Korea an example. In the 60s, or Singapore, they were as poor as most African countries. If you look at Rwanda, in 1994, they had a genocide. And in 2021, Singapore is unlike anything that we've seen in the Gambia.
He noted that the country is failing and Gambians are suffering. Mr. Mane promised to grow the economy, maintain peace, enhance security, and make life better for all Gambians.
There's a lot of suffering in the country. There is extreme poverty in this country. And the country is definitely will take ownership of our country. We will take ownership of our economy. We will take ownership of our security. And there will be peace in this country. The economy will grow. We will do it together. We will live together, work together, and grow the country together to achieve the dream that we have for this country.
After Mr. Mane was a turn of another independent presidential candidate, Professor Mamadou Ba. Professor Ba said he believes in himself and has been a leader for over 20 years, stating that he is the best candidate for the position of president of the Gambia.
I believe in myself. I've worked for it. I've been leader for the past 20 years. I am the typical example of what the Gambian school has been looking for. I went through a public school, through a Christian missionary school, and then a Muslim missionary school. Public school where I was trained how to be a practicing Muslim.
He said Gambia is sick and therefore needs vitamin C to cure its sickness.
Previously, I came up with orange color. That means that's it's vitamin C. You know, because the country is sick, we need to give it medicine. We need to give it vitamin, and orange is vitamin C. I came up with vitamin on C, so they told me someone took it, but it's okay.
Professor Ba emphasized that he met all the Independent Electoral Commission IEC set criteria, stating that because of the great things he has done for the Gambia, he is confident of winning the forthcoming presidential elections. After Professor Ba, there came what people now describe as the Gambian Rasta presidential candidate, Bankole Ahadzi, popularly known as Banky, to officially present his nomination document to the country's Independent Electoral Commission. Speaking to pressmen after his nomination, Banky said he had taken a COVID-19 test and the results were not out. Therefore, he could not grant interviews, but however promised to take interviews at a later date.
I took a COVID test on Friday. The results are not out yet. I don't want to endanger the public, so I apologize. I will not be giving an interview today, but I will in a future date. Thank you very much.
Because of his appearance, which many people described as too casual, Banky told Gambians not to judge him by his appearance, but by his manifesto and his intention to develop the nation. According to Banky, his vision to run for president is anchored on 5 cardinal pillars, including free education, one-term presidency, creating jobs with decent salaries, development in all sectors, and empowerment of 1 billion Gambian Dalasi fund in sport. In previous interviews, Banky had called on the Gambian government to move towards legalizing marijuana, as other African nations are already making billions from weed exportation. They too of the nomination exercise was climaxed by the presentation of nomination credentials by the presidential candidate for the Alliance for National Reorientation and Development Party, ANRD, General Lamin Bojan, speaking exclusively to the Fatu Network immediately after completing his nomination process at Independent Electoral Commission headquarters. General Lamin Bojan said his priority areas will be agriculture, health, education, security, and enhancing the sovereignty of the Gambia.
We feel happy. We are jubilating. We believe that we have fulfilled and met all the criteria, and therefore we fear nothing. We know at the end of the day, the public scrutiny is that is also part of the procedures. But there is nothing that we can hide, and there is nothing that will scare us. All that we are trying to do here is just a fulfillment of some of the requirements. And we thank Allah for this support, and we thank Allah that we are witnessing this magnificent event.
Reporting for the Fatu Network, I am Amara Thoronka.
Best phone in the Gambia, Afriphone, is back in a brand new style. Africell, the biggest and the best GSM operator in the Gambia, is setting trends once again.
Get an Afriphone for $350 only and receive 1 hour of free talk time spread over 3 months.
$350 is only you can get a dual SIM phone with a wireless FM radio, memory card slot, internet access, long-lasting battery, and 1 hour of free talk time.
Where Africell goes, nobody dares to follow.
Nomination for president in the Gambia. Busy moment here in the Gambia. So day one was on Saturday, which featured independence. You had Marisok, you had Alaji Mamadi Kurang, but you also have Joseph Juf. They were all at the IEC. Matthew Gomez was the 4th person to appear before officials on Saturday, where he asked the Independent Electoral Commission officials to cancel his nomination because he was pulling out of the race. I am now joined by my guest for today, the independent Abubacarr Jeng. A few days ago, he news emerged that he has flipped to President Barrow. He will be backing the president for the election next month. He joins me now. Thank you, Mr. Jeng, for coming.
Yeah. Thank you for having me again.
Good. Why did you decide to collapse your presidential bid to support President Barrow?
Actually, not in collapse. I did not flip. Actually, I broadened my perspective, and it was June 3rd, I think we sat here, for me to disclose my intention to run this country. From June 3rd up to today, the 1st of November, is approximately 5 months or even more.
Yes. Yes.
And being on the ground and, feeling the pulse of the people and looking at the status quo, watching government, listening to all political heads who are running around the country, singing those qualities that they believe that, they could carry and run this country. And looking at the status quo right now, I came to the conclusion, that the country is right now in a very fragile moment. That I will have to look at, where I will synergize, where the country will benefit from. So I had a series of conversations with different political heads, but I haven't seen my programs into their programs. All I see is people who are hungry for power and not for change. So at the end of the day, there are realities out there. What's seen on the upper end and what's there in the ground in reality, is two quite different things. So I read in between the lines and went deep into the reality, went deep into myself. So I consulted, for guidance,
yes,
and came to the conclusion to work with the president, who is elected by us, during a time that a team was presented. And he was the one that was presented by the team, who I believe carefully selected him, through a process, and shows that he is the man. And all of a sudden, after some period of time, where I see a couple of team members, being in their own corner and saying, no, he's not the man. So I don't want to get myself confused. So I just stick to the original plan, and a national development plan was presented to us that we all need to take ownership. And as I grew, in the midst of my political, career, running for president, I learned a lot. So I expanded my perspective and I broadened my understanding.
Yes.
So I think basically that's the reason why I decided to join.
Because make us understand, you were serious about this. You even participated in a presidential candidate debate. How did it all happen? The issue of you settling for the president, cancelling or withdrawing from the race to support the president. What did you see in him?
Actually, after having a few conversations with people who are pretty close to him and who are helping him in this point in time, I guess you would see people like Abubacarr in his midst, who is a technocrat, who has a vast knowledge on how State House works, because it's all about State House, and it's the engine, that really, runs this country, So after he got into my mind and, we had, a serious conversation, I came to realize that, I think in this point in time, it's about togetherness and helping the president in this point in time, to get, past this transition, because it's really difficult when it comes to, change. We are from a very, hostile environment, that is the previous government. And we see ourselves, in the midst of a change, which was engineered by different political heads, which is the coalition, who were not seeing things the same. They have diverse, ways of thinking, on how to do the job. So there was no oneness in them, They just needed to come together to kick Jammeh out. But there was no plan after Jammeh goes, what exactly they were going to do. So it was like a stressful moment, and to deal with change, it requires a lot, So, but that principle of togetherness wasn't there. Physically they were together, but mentally and emotionally they were not. So things fell apart, and they started blaming and victimizing one another. So I wouldn't buy the idea of same very people who sing the praises of an individual, and all of a sudden they flipped and started, pointing fingers and assassination. I went deep in the lines because of the people who were carried away by this whole, shouting and whistleblowing and all that stuff. As a youngster who have love for my country, and I really want this country to work, to go forward. I followed the flow, I went with the flow. And at the end of the day, as a human being, going with the flow, you just don't go with the flow forever. You have moments of quietness where you sit down and watch different perspective. So when I broaden my perspective and watch deeply, about what exactly is going on, I say, yeah, why not? So on grounds, because at the end of the day, when I presented myself to, the president's entourage, what I wanted to do and how I wanted to do it, I am rest assured, that it will come into play, because I wanted to see, the youth employed, I wanted to see change, but I cannot be outside the system to effect change. At the end of the day, you need to be part of the system. And it's not only through the ballot box that you be part of the system. That's what's making Africa to go backwards. We will just sit down and say, okay, it is this one. We all shout and put him in power. After 2 or 3 years, we started getting dissatisfied. Oh, he's too slow. This is not something that's gonna happen like switch. Like, it's not a car that you just jump in and start the vehicle and just move. There are realities in governance, and our civil service is something that really needs to be masterminded, and there's a lot of things that need to be sanitized. And the only ones that can sanitize is people who have the wherewithal, people who have the knowledge. So I believe that, all these people that are running around and thinking that they could do something, regarding this country, I feel that it's about time for us. It's not about who leads, it's about the team that leads. It's not only about running this country. There's a cabinet, there's the parliament, we have the judiciary. You know, it's a whole bunch of people that are together,
Yes.
you know, working together. I think they need harmony here. So I think in this point in time, the decision I made, I feel that it's the right decision because of there's a lot of chaos, you know. So joining him is going to give probably myself and like-minded people, you know, who are out there, that confidence that, okay, once we are close to him, all these complaints that we're complaining, that probably, you know, people are complaining about mediocrity and all that stuff, things are not working, and, you know, he is doing that. Even the ones that, you know, have problems with leakages in their houses say, okay, it's bad. You know, it doesn't add up, you know. Everybody has a role to play, you know, in a country's development.
So you joining him, is it contingent upon a deal? Did you sign an agreement to support him, or this is just something that you've done out of your own volition, and it comes with no condition?
Actually, this is love for country, and verbally, you know, is something that we've discussed, and at the end of the day, all I want to see is Gambia work, and the promise is made that Gambia will work, and I am sown a team that I am 100% sure that working with the team and that plan, the country will work. Because at the end of the day, when the right people are involved, you know, with the right programs, because we already have a running program. You know, there was a national development plan that was written, yes. And this national development plan is in motion. So at the end of the day, a plan in the motion needs just the right place. Because at the end of the day, things will change. You know, if you could totally recall, I was talking about that technical audit. So when a technical audit comes
Yes.
into play,
Yes.
it will sanitize a lot of things. So he's a man that listens and takes ideas from other people. He's a man who's open to any type of idea that will make this country work at the end of the day. And to me, what really motivated me about him, he's somebody that unites. He's a peacemaker. He's somebody with empathy. He's somebody with an emotional intelligence that I feel that people, if we have genuine people around him, they will have a good team to work together.
So let me ask you this. I know some people might start trying to really understand what Abubacarr Jeng is doing here. Someone might accuse you of entering or going into this for interest, for position. Maybe, okay, this is how I want to do it, a strategy by you to support the president when he is returned to office in December. You get to getting yourself a job.
Actually, you see, when it comes to people and their opinions, I care less about what people think. You know, what I care more is about what I am doing, why I am doing it. You know, so I am too inclined to my reasons, and every reason I have to work with the president, I think is genuine. I'm a Gambian and he's a Gambian. I see no reason why I should not work with him. If at all he made a request, I see no reason why.
What's your opinion on the nomination? It started on Saturday. Today we've seen the heavyweights start arriving. The UDP, massive. The statement that they made today is a very, very strong statement. This veteran politician was accompanied to the IEC with thousands of supporters.
Actually, as for me, I am not moved by crowds or numbers. I am moved by realities.
What are the realities?
Anybody can marshal numbers. You can pull crowds. It's just a matter of being able to afford it.
But when you say that,
you see, everybody has supporters.
Yes.
No matter how much the numbers are.
Yes.
You know, and
facilitating those numbers for them to come in a mass gathering. Even Attack can do it, the rapper Attack. If rapper Attack was supposed to go and nominate, you'll see a mass crowd behind him, going to nominate. So at the end of the day, just to it's just a joke. So what I mean is, when it comes to this nomination, with all these candidates out and with UDP out, so to me it doesn't shake me a bit.
You think the president will win?
At the end of the day, it's a game.
Let's clear that.
It's a game.
Yes.
It's a game. When you sit in front of a television watching two big players playing.
Two big teams
playing. You cross your finger and watch the game. Notwithstanding the fitness of the team players.
You are with President Barrow.
Yes.
Who do you think will win this election?
Actually, I'll be very honest with you. I saw a team that is very strong. And that I believe December 4th, they'll be elected back to office.
That is President Barrow.
That's President Barrow.
So one thing also that is very important, the leaders have a huge role in this election. You are one of the leaders. I have seen you also, people believe in you. I have seen you with young people. For example, at the debate that you took part in, I have seen people come with you, meaning these people trust you. This is why they were following you. Your role in this election is very important in terms of the messages that you put across. What would Mr. Abubacarr Jeng advise, because this is a high stakes election, what would you advise the citizens regarding this election? Because we can't afford to have this in a certain way, vis-a-vis, or what I'm trying to put across here is to do this in a violent way. At the end of the day, this country belongs to us, so we can't afford to cause chaos in the country.
Actually, when I look at the status of the country, in this point in time, and the amount of aggressiveness, coming from certain political parties, I will single out the UDP. I was driving today, and I have my stickers on my car, and the amount of insults I received before I reach here, it's very disturbing. So at the end of the day, that's not politics. If it goes like this and UDP happens to be voted in power with such, I'm not saying the executive, but the surrogates, there should be some amount of discipline and some amount of control. Politics isn't about hostility.
Yes.
It's not about being harsh on the opponent. We're not enemies here. We are all Gambians. We are different in tribe, we are different in religion, but we are the same people. This is the country that we have. So if things go the other way around and we enter into such, violence and extremism, what's going to happen is it's going to lead us somewhere that we are all going to suffer in the end. Just what happened in other countries, as we see in Rwanda, and all these tribal wars that happen in the end. So as for me, Gambians need to really start watching where they cast their votes, because we are in a very sensitive era. We don't want to create violence in this country, and it's a time that we make, a very harsh decision, the fate of this country, the future of this country.
Ibrahima Tubura Mane was the first to show up on day 2 of the nomination process at the Independent Electoral Commission headquarters. After completing his nomination process, Mr. Mane faced the media and promised Gambians that he would develop the Gambia more than Singapore, Rwanda, and Botswana.
People have been exposed to information that really angered them. People are bearing anger in their chest. People are having psychological trauma because of the things that were exposed. There is another process that should be in place, which I believe the TRRC lead didn't wait for. That is the restorative practices, the healing process, the reconciliation process. People are angry because of certain things, on certain people. So if things go the other way around, what's going to happen is there's going to be revenge. Who can control this? What happens on the ground, nobody has control over. This can turn this country into a battlefield. We are in a very fragile situation. We have the rebels in Casamance. They belong to a certain tribe, that is the Jola. I'll call the spade a spade. The former president was here who was a Jola. And the people that he affected most is UDP. Might be the executive can have that level of maturity and that level, you know, of intellectualism.
Yes.
But how about the surrogates? Things might go messy. So we are in a very sensitive situation whereby we all need to take responsibility of our country as good citizens. To bring peace, the language needs to change. They need to sit their surrogates down and get into their heads that this is a country that we all believe is bigger than all of us.
Yes.
We don't want to see some kind of, you know, genocide or some type of tribal war in this country. Who knows what's going to happen?
So in terms of the former president, we've seen him address his supporters from faraway Equatorial Guinea, speak to them, and what is happening is that the APRC is gripped by crises. You have two groups. You have the one that is backing the president, while you have the other group that is now with GDC. Initially it was GANU, and then later GDC. What do you make of his role in terms of his public addresses?
Actually, the way I see things, it's all politics at the end of the day. And one thing he has to realize and put at the back of his mind, that he has people that he entrusted with the party. And there should be some amount of consultation between them. All I see is just some amount of immaturity, you know, with the statements and with the reactions and all the stuff. We have to go past that level as people who people look up to as leaders. We the youngsters, we the young people wants to see more. We are sick and tired of seeing this finger pointing and, you know, character assassination and, you know, all this petty talks.
Yes.
It's childish. It's childish. So they should display some amount of maturity. And maturity is the balance, you know, between courage and consideration. You should consider. And what should you consider? Is that little baby that's suckling? Is that old woman who cannot run away? If this country go into flames, who's going to suffer? They're not going to suffer. They should fear Allah and consider that there are human beings that are living in this country who deserve a decent living, who deserve to be taken care of. Their mess can cause this country into a big mess and a big chaos. And we will not forgive them. We are dissatisfied with their behaviors. They need to sit themselves in a corner and watch themselves internally. Shy away from selfishness. You have to be selfless in a country. Accept the truth. They should accept the truth and support what's right for the sake of Gambia, and for the sake of the children, and for the sake of our children's children, even those who are not born yet.
Mr. Abubacarr Jeng?
Yes.
Thank you for coming on the show.
You're
I appreciate
welcome.
it.
Thank
you
you
very much. I'll take that to be your final advice to the leaders, your fellow leaders there. Thank you for coming as usual, brother, and the best of luck.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So that's the independent Abubacarr Jeng. He was one of the leaders who announced that he will be running for president. He will now be supporting President Adama Barrow. He was my guest today. We'll be back tomorrow.